You're good.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our August 7th emergency meeting of the New Albany Plain Local Schools Board of Education. Call the meeting to order and request a roll call.
Mr. Newmoff,
Here.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Here.
Mr. Bush,
Here.
Vice President Darrow,
Here.
President McClelland.
Here. To today's agenda, Mr. Sawyers, any additions or corrections to the agenda?
President McClellan would like to introduce an addendum agenda, please.
Okay, and with that addendum, could I have an approval or a motion to approve today's agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Newmoff, in a second.
Second.
Mr. Darrow, roll call, please.
Mr. Newmoff,
Yes.
Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
President McClelland.
Yes. And so our one item today is a discussion item for the 2021 Responsible Restart Update. Before we get into that with Mr. Sawyers, I just want to address something quickly I've heard about myself and from some other board members about some comments throughout the community over the last couple of weeks about the number of special and emergency meetings that we've been having. As many of you know, the Board of Education establishes the dates for its meetings at the beginning of every year. And typically that comes out to about one work session and one regular meeting each month, not so much in the summer, but during the school year, it's about what it is. So anytime we add a meeting to our calendar, it is designated either a special meeting or an emergency meeting. And those designations are really based on timing. So a special meeting is what happens. It's a meeting that's not regularly scheduled, but it's planned more than 24 hours in advance. An emergency meeting then is simply a meeting that's not regularly scheduled, but is planned less than 24 hours in advance. So hence today's emergency meeting. So people have asked, well, why do you have these special emergency meetings? So you may also know the Board of Education, there are a lot of rules around how we are able to meet, when we were able to meet, and discuss things in person. So we're not permitted to conduct business outside of our board meetings per Ohio's sunshine laws. So in fact, if three of us are together, three of the five of us are together, if we were to discuss any board business, that would be considered a public meeting. So while we're able to have individual conversations amongst ourselves, this group is really only able to deliberate when we are together for these meetings. So that's why we sometimes schedule a special or an emergency meeting. So why schedule them and then go directly into executive session? That's another question we've been asked. Well, the Ohio Revised Code allows for boards of education to meet in executive session for a number of items, including discussions about sensitive personnel decisions, potential pending litigation, planning for bonds or levies, other items. So obviously there's been a lot that we've had to talk about returning to school. And so we've needed to have executive session to discuss several issues related to that, that has been permissible under revised code for executive session. But some people have been speculating, because a lot of times when we go into executive session, it's because we're going to conduct bargaining sessions with our teachers union. So there's been a lot of speculation in the community about whether or not we've been having these meetings to conduct bargaining with our teachers union about COVID or related to COVID. I want to put that to rest right now today. We are not currently bargaining with our teachers. It's not happening. Okay. We're in very unusual times. And there's a lot that we have to do to get ready for this fall. Negotiations or bargaining with our teachers currently is not one of the things that we are doing. So just want to make that clear. One thing we are doing today, though, is the board has specifically requested of Mr. Sawyers to make some changes and provide us some updates on the Responsible Restart Plan. So Mr. Sawyers, if you wouldn't mind presenting to the board the plan as we have requested it.
Thank you, President McClellan. Welcome, Board of Education members. I'm going to share my screen, so just give me 1 second. Becky, I'm disabled. Can everyone see the screen? So good morning. Pursuant to the conversations with Board of Education members, I'm going to present an update to the Responsible Restart Plan for the 2020-21 school year. Again, I'd like to frame our conversation to ground us in the purpose of the work we do daily within our school district, and it's to create a culture of accountability that achieves the best academic and developmental outcomes for each student. And I know that over the course of the last several weeks, we've had numerous conversations about what 2020-21 was going to bring related to a school year. So we're hopefully going to provide clarification to that today for our families, for our staff, and for our students across our school district to create a responsible plan to open the school year when it is safe for all students to basically be on our school campus with our faculty and staff. I'll remind everyone that although I'm going to give very specific information this morning on our current direction, that it does remain subject to change, unfortunately, based upon anything that would be required through a governmental institution as an executive order or such. So if the governor issues something that changes this and it's an executive order, clearly it's going to have an impact to what I'm going to share this morning. So I would just remind everyone, as part of the R-Factor work we're doing within our school district, that we are required to adjust and adapt frequently. And I know you've been doing that readily over the course of the last month with us since our first presentation in early July. Again, our goal as a school district is to safely return students and staff to our school campus as soon as possible. That's supported by the CDC Director Robert Redfield, and I shared this at our last conversation with the Board of Education, that it is in the public health interest to get the schools back open for face-to-face learning as soon as possible. So this morning, I'm going to talk about our path forward based upon the work that's been ongoing with the leadership team, based upon conversations with health officials, the Ohio Department of Education, Franklin County Public Health, the Ohio Department of Health, the New Albany COVID-19 Task Force. It is relentless and tireless that we're working tirelessly to come up with solutions that will benefit our students and our families. And I'm hopeful that today's clarifications and additional information will allow families to make final choices for the 2020-21 school year as we look towards the beginning. Couple reminders for our families. The governor actually executed an executive order since our last Board of Education meeting when we adopted a policy requiring face masks for all students in our school district. So the board, in its wisdom, had approved the recommendation of the New Albany COVID-19 Task Force. And since then, the governor in the state of Ohio has actually issued an executive order through the Ohio Department of Health that masks are required on school campuses for all students in grades K through 12. Specifically age of 6 and beyond. But the recommendation specifically from the letter that came from Children's and the Hospital Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, supports our decision that all students in grades K through 12 would be required with limited exemptions. We will be issuing directions to our parents that have selected to be in person for option number 1 for the 2020-21 school year on what the very limited amount of exemptions for a face mask will be. And then a face shield can still be required in accordance with Board of Education policy. So our families will be receiving additional information in the next couple of weeks to go through the process if they meet one of the very limited exemptions that's been put in place and recommendations through the American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as the Ohio Children's Hospital Association, as illustrated in the letter on this slide. Additionally, as part of the safeguard and recommendations, we are still actively planning to try to implement across our school campus social distancing as a requirement for all students and staff. Our goal remains 3 to 6 feet whenever possible, both within classrooms, within hallways, and other areas across our school campus, again, when possible. Our New Albany COVID-19 Task Force explained to the Board of Education the research behind social distancing. However, we still plan to implement it to the best of our ability on our school campus when students return in person. Lastly, for hand washing and hygiene protocols, and I'm just going to call it that, there's additional safety protocols that are being enacted by the school district specifically related to cleaning and disinfecting at all, but specifically for students, there will be hand washing or hand sanitizing protocols that will be required for all in-person students to participate on our school campus on a daily basis in cooperation with the faculty and the staff. So as we look forward to what 2020-21 brings, I'm going to remind everyone that we introduced to our families two options. And I'm going to reiterate those again today because since our last board meeting, I have several conversations with parents or emails with parents, as have the other members of the leadership team, actually providing additional clarification or answers to information that people are specifically requesting to make an informed decision. So option number one is the ability to transition through face-to-face 5 days per week when it's permissible to a hybrid model of 50% attendance or 25% attendance, whatever the requirement may be, to protect safety and welfare, and or transition to e-learning if there would be an executive order requiring everyone to stay home. So that is option number one, that you're signing up that I want to be in person, and currently approximately 75% of our school district is still saying that based upon the current opportunity to enroll in VLP. VLP is the second option we gave to our families. If you would like a 100% virtual, at-home, online learning platform available to your student every day with consistency, then you selected option number two to go to the virtual learning program. So the first one can require transitions at any given point in time based upon whatever's happening in relationship to the coronavirus. The second one is the guarantee to be at home 100% of the time and not participate in changes that would be required because of potential health orders. To that end, I'm recommending this morning through the addendum agenda, based upon continued work over the course of the last week and new information available from Franklin County Public Health, that the 2020-21 school calendar be revised yet again. In this week's data conversation with Franklin County Public Health and the health officials from the state, I learned that we are at least 2 weeks into the downward trend related to the 4-week expectation for data to illustrate a change potentially for Franklin County. To that end, I want to buy us an additional week of time to look at data to make an informed decision for the long term for our families. So although it's similar to what I said at the last board meeting, I'm now adding an additional week for data collection based upon conversations this week with health experts. Families want to know when absolutely the first day of school will be. So based upon those health conversations this week, I am confident that Tuesday, September 8th is the best decision we can make for a measured approach to the 2020-21 school year. So to that end, I'm recommending that we delay the start of this 2020-21 school year for students until the day after Labor Day for Tuesday, September 8th. If we do that, the teacher work year changes and becomes Thursday, August 27th. But by moving the school calendar, because we're starting after Labor Day, I have to push graduation by a week. So we would go to graduation on Saturday, June 5th. The last day for students, for underclassmen, not seniors, will be June 8th. And the last day for teachers is June 9th. In order to achieve moving the school year by 1 week without adding all the days in June, because I'm being respectful to the fact that some families may have already made plans, and I apologize if you have plans, but we have to do what's in holistically the best interest of the school district. I'm recommending that we modify winter break. So winter recess, December 21st and 22nd will become school days. January 4th will become a school day. So I'm picking up 3 days during the calendar year, during student attendance, to make them school days instead of recess or professional development day release, and then adding 2 days in June. So it's a balanced approach to not completely go to the middle of June, but we're adding a couple more days into June to be proactive based upon the information I've learned this week from our health officials. So today on the agenda, I am recommending this to become the new calendar for the 2020-21 school year. With the enactment of said calendar, this shows you how I propose our updated restart for Board of Education consideration for responsible restart for the 2020-21 school year. Teacher report day would become Thursday, August 20th. And that would actually be professional development. So we switched this morning, so I apologize. On the graphic, it shows staff workday. Staff workday is actually going to move to Friday the 28th. Professional development is going to be Thursday the 27th. Because of the change in time, I didn't have time to change the graphics. So we will finalize this and send it out. But Thursday will be PD. Friday will be a work day. Monday the 31st Tuesday the 1st, Wednesday the 2nd, and Thursday the 3rd become staff professional development days. Based upon the conversations with health officials and in cooperation and collaboration with our teachers, there's work that is yet to be done in preparation for a future enactment of remote learning should it become necessary related to curriculum. To that end, the school district will work with our classroom teachers to specifically continue to prepare the curriculum that will be required should a remote learning situation be necessary for students that are attending school in person, but that would transition to currently purple for e-learning if at any point in time this winter such would become required. So those days will become teacher work days for professional development and learning in cooperation with building principals and other administrators, teacher leaders, team leaders, department heads to do specific work within curriculum to help us continue the incredible work that our teachers have done this summer. So we did do curriculum work this summer with all teachers across our school district, but there's still yet more work to be done to get us further into the school year for curriculum related work should it become necessary for a remote-based environment. So to that end, let's go to the kids. I'm proposing in the revised calendar presented this morning that we start the first week of school on Tuesday, September 8th. The first week of school is hybrid. We will bring in 25 to 50%. We don't have that worked out yet. We're working on it. 25 or 50% of the kids in our assigned groups. So we've previously discussed the fact that we intend to take the alphabet and break it into a maroon group and a gold group. And we're in the process of finalizing that after the BLP is finished for students to attend school on a rotation basis. So the first week of school from September 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, students actually would come to school in a small group experience somehow, some that way if they're attending school that week in person. So we would rotate 25 to 50% max of the alphabet for the maroon group on Tuesday and Thursday, respectively, and then the gold group on Wednesday and Friday, respectively. Also beginning Tuesday, September 8th, all students enrolled in the virtual learning program would begin their online school for the 2020-21 school year. Theirs stays consistent every day of the week because they're 100% remote. The other students that are in person beginning on Monday, September 14th, depending on all of our success the first week, we would make a decision. If we are extremely successful, as we anticipate we will be, between September 8th and September 11th, we have the ability beginning Monday, September 14th, barring any other new information, data, and everything else that would help us make an informed and responsible decision, that all students will return to school full time that's selected in person. If we need additional press pause opportunity to adjust and adapt and build our skills still, then we would continue in a hybrid model for one additional week. So for family planning, I'm proposing based upon the revised calendar that we announced this morning, which I've just done, what's happening between September 8th and September 18th. I'm also proposing, because we have more data that comes in on a weekly basis, that we revisit the rest of the school year for whatever the model is going to become. And I'm hoping that September 21st is going to be all in, if not already on September 14th, based upon the data over the next 3 weeks. But the Board of Education and the administration should update our families no later than Wednesday, September 2nd, to provide them that information, because we will have 3 more weeks of data that are available to us to help us plan responsibly and effectively in a measured approach way to meet the needs of our students and our faculty, our staff, and our families as a whole. So for September 21st, after, you see I've just put to be determined, because I think we should be honest and say we as a school district are making informed decisions based upon the data and the best information that's available. So families will have to continue to work with us over the course of the next 4 weeks and continuing throughout the rest of the school year, obviously, but to help them understand what's going to happen beyond the first 2 weeks of school in the proposed calendar for 2020-21 that I'm recommending today. I want to clarify, because we had a lot of questions after the last board meeting related to reopening the virtual learning plan program commitment that families could choose to switch from in-person to a remote-based experience. A few families seemed confused that they did not understand that in the first option, you may be required to transition at any given point in time, hopefully with up to a week's notice. That is our intent, barring an order from the governor or the Ohio Department of Health or other that we would have to comply with. But if you select option number 1, and I called it the roller coaster at the last meeting, so I've tried to illustrate that in this graphic, that if you choose option number 1, which currently is 75% of our parent population in our school district for our students, I'm proposing we start the school year in hybrid for 1 week minimally. So you will come 25% of the time or 50% of the time the first week. Then we will transition on the roller coaster ride, if at all possible, to go to all in, where kids can come to school every single day of the week. But then as the school year continues on our roller coaster ride, you have to be prepared at any point to transition based upon a health order to e-learning, which will be a remote-based environment with your classroom teachers that currently you would be scheduled for in person. So the in-person teacher you have will become your remote teacher if we are in a remote situation. You will then transition again as many times as necessary based upon health orders, and it must be a health order, to transition from each form of model for flexible learning. So if you want the in-person option, which clearly is 75% of our population, please understand that I need you to be adaptable, and you're going to have to transition whenever the school district may be required to transition. So if it is a requirement, we will not have an option. If it's a recommendation, we have discussion. So I just need to clarify for everyone that did not understand this. If you sign up for option number 1, you are on our roller coaster ride to transition as often as necessary between each flexible model based upon any health order that would be issued. If you select the VLP program, you have guaranteed consistency. The adaptability that's required in the transitions for option 1 are not required in the VLP. If you select the virtual learning program, you are 100% at home virtual for at least the first semester. It will be consistent every single day with no transitions required. To that end, this morning, because of the change in the school calendar going to after Labor Day, I recognize that this could be a dramatic change for some families in our school district. So to be respectful of that, we are going to leave the VLP registration commitment opportunity open for any student that's currently in person to choose for the final time before we start school on September 8th to go VLP or go virtual if this is necessary based upon this change that the school district's making. So if you now fully understand that in option number 1, you do not want to go on the roller coaster ride to go from hybrid to all in to e-learning to hybrid to all in to whatever it becomes in the transitions, if you do not want that experience, then your option is the virtual learning program to be 100% remote every day at home during the 2020-21 school year for at least the first semester. So we're asking for a first semester commitment so we can staff it appropriately. If you now wish to make that change, and we will send a letter to our families again this morning, that the VLP remains open through Monday, August 10th at noon. Athletic updates. So we've received some additional information from the Ohio High School Athletic Association as well as the Ohio Department of Health. Again, this is very fluid and it's adaptable. Beginning Monday, August 10th, golf, tennis, cross country, and volleyball will have full team practice options and competitions because they are non-contact sports based upon the current health regulations that are being enacted across the state of Ohio. Only inter-club team scrimmages are still permissible for contact sports, specifically football, field hockey, and soccer. Spectators are still not permitted at the contact sports for competitive inter-club or team play. Cheerleading is a conversation. There's a debate. I'm just going to be honest and say what it is. Is it contact or no contact based upon the ability to do mounts? So mounts might be prohibited so that it is not a contact, and then they would have eligibility to participate differently. So Mr. Wieldenhouse, the athletic director at the high school that oversees interscholastic sports for grades 7 through 12 with Ms. Anderson, will be providing additional information specifically related to cheerleading as soon as it is clarified to help us understand how to inform our cheerleaders of what their eligibility is for fall participation. Again, everything in the athletic world will follow OHSAA, ODH, or Franklin County Public Health or governmental orders, specifically for interscholastic athletics. As it changes, we will adapt. So currently, this is the information I can share, and there will be a pivot for us beginning Monday, specifically related to non-contact sports. Our path forward, the next steps for really what this means between now and the first day for students on September 8th. We must continue to collaborate and problem solve with a wide variety of entities, from the New Albany COVID-19 Task Force, the Franklin County Public Health Department, the Ohio Department of Health, the Governor's Office, the Ohio Department of Education, our associations within the school district, and really our students and our families. It's going to require really collaboration, problem solving, and a commitment by everyone that we're in this together, and we're going to create an environment that's safe for all students, faculty, and staff. I will meet weekly with the Franklin County Public Health Department until further notice to continue to analyze data that's provided in cooperation with all superintendents in Franklin County through the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio. We will actively look at the data for analysis and discuss it with our New Albany COVID-19 Task Force members to help us make informed choices, decisions, and recommendations to present to the Board of Education. We will continue our planning for full implementation of all health and safety protocols that are required to successfully open our school year for students beginning September 28th and for teachers upon their return on Thursday, August 27th. Staff and student schedules and the principals, unfortunately, will have to do master schedules and reset classrooms one more time because we're actually leaving the VLP window open through Monday. We believe, however, this is in the best interest of our students and our families to make a responsible, informed choice based upon the information we're now available to provide today. Parents in our school district that remain in the system as of Tuesday morning or Monday afternoon, once we've closed the VLP, we are going to send you an opt-out form. We've had several parents inquiring about transportation, bus services. Currently, the recommendation for transportation remains the same. No more than 2 students per seat per bus, unless they're siblings from the same household. Every student on a bus riding the school bus will be required to wear a face mask at all times to and from school. So from the time they are at the bus stop to the time they leave the school bus to go back to meet the person at the bus stop, if they're a kindergartner as an example, or to walk home, they must be wearing the mask. So that will be part of the safety protocols that come out specifically for families related to transportation. However, to help us successfully create bus routes, if there are families in our school district that know their child will not ride the school bus for the first semester, we're going to ask you to tell us that. If you have any reservations related to school bus transportation and you intend to drive your student to and from school every single day, we're going to ask you to opt out so we can safely and efficiently plan our transportation services to provide notices to our families of their scheduled routes prior to the first day of school in September. Information is going to be forthcoming to our families for a one-to-one technology distribution. It's going to be a drive-through where families will have the opportunity to secure their technology prior to the first day of school. So students that are still in person students that are in person and or VLP will have the opportunity to secure that technology from the school district. So that information also will be forthcoming. The maroon and gold assignments will be finalized next week, and we will notify families in the near future of their assigned grouping for a hybrid-based environment. We are contacting blended families, students in the same household that have multiple last names, to allow the family to make a decision with the school district on how to group the students best within their household to meet their needs as a family unit. So our grouping is done alphabetically, but we clearly recognize that there are several students in a home that may have different last names. We want to help the family do what's necessary to group students to the best of our ability to meet their academic needs, but at the same time recognize the needs of the family. Bus route and pickup drop-off times will be provided prior to the start of the school year as always. We are actively engaging to continue the work associated to the health and safety requirements that also will be published to families that still come to school in person or that are committing to school in person by September. We will tell you a lot of information related to the health and safety requirements that will be enacted on our school campus that will have to be complied with for daily student attendance at school. As always, we will continue to have ongoing communications, updates, and more for students, families, and staff members. So it's going to be a busy August, but we have a lot of information that we will still have to provide before the end of the month to allow students to successfully return beginning Tuesday, September 8th. Again, I remind everyone that everything that I just said remains subject to change based upon a health order within the state of Ohio, or specifically enacted for our school district. So again, it would require an order for us to change, but presently this is the direction that I believe is in our best interest of our families, our students, our faculty, our staff, and our entire learning community to look to provide before the 2021 school year. I believe we are stronger together. I've said this multiple times. We are going to have to unite to keep everyone safe on our school campus. And I believe there are disciplines where it goes back to wearing a mask, social distancing, hand washing, health and hygiene protocols that are essential, not just at school, but also at home and within our community to keep schools open for the 2020-21 school year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions the Board of Education may have related to my updated recommendations for the responsible restart for the 2020-21 school year.
Michael, I appreciate the update and it's thorough as always. And I also appreciate the fact that you focused quite a bit for our families on the fact that that those choosing in-person school may be riding a roller coaster. But I just wanted to emphasize that it's a may. If we have to, that's what it'll be. But our plan is to have kids come to school in the first week to get our procedures and processes set and make sure that everyone's following them. And then that we will start school with everyone as long as our kids and our faculty and everybody does well during that first week, that we'll be back in school with all the kids, and that the roller coaster is only going to happen if we have to. Is that fair?
That is correct.
So I would like to just note, I think, Michael, you laid it out well at the beginning. We are making the decision to delay the week because we believe that's in the best interest for the safety of our staff and of our students. And that we believe, based on discussions with the Franklin County Health Department, that we see data changes that we believe will be positively trending here in the coming weeks. And so we are intending, we believe it's in the best interest of our students to start in person. Many other districts have chosen to go remote immediately. We believe that this is a better situation for students to be able to start in person right away, and thus the deferral. However, should data negatively change either locally within our zip codes across Franklin County, and we do not have that data bump, I appreciate you reiterating to our community, it's a roller coaster, it's adjust and adapt as we go. So there is I just need to say this as a fellow neighbor, there is a circumstance where if we are sitting here with negative data over the coming weeks, absent a health order, even without a health order, there is a possibility that we are, at least me personally, would be advising that we adapt on September the 2nd. Again, that's as much clarity as I can say to my neighbors right now, that we have to look at the data, and we are trying to be as, we're trying to thread the needle here so we can get into the school buildings in person right away relative to health and safety of our staff and our students. So I know that we keep referencing health order, and that is likely what it would take because if we have negative changes in data, we're going to have health orders. But I just want to clarify that we are trying to be mindful of getting started in person for the best academic and developmental outcomes for our students. We're trying to be mindful of safety, and we're trying to look at this data on a week-to-week basis and have those continuing discussions.
Debbie or Mike?
I'll go. First, I just want to thank Michael, Becky, the entire administrative team, all of our staff for helping us navigate right now. I know it's a tremendous amount of work, and you don't have a crystal ball, and we are working together to do the very best we can to bring kids to school in person in a safe way. And I want to thank families for being patient with us. We know this is really difficult on families, that they need to make plans. We have a lot of families who are dual career families, and I know this is really challenging. We are hoping that this additional revision to the school calendar will give us the absolute best opportunity to have a smooth start to school and to bring kids back in person with the teachers in a safe way. That is our priority, is to bring kids back to school safely in person as soon as possible. But I also want to echo that if you are looking for a certain plan and not a roller coaster, potentially, we did want to extend the offering of the VLP option for families. So I know these are major decisions. We're trying to give everyone up to the minute notice as we look at making the best plans we can. And we're also trying to provide you with the options you need to make an informed choice. So I just want to thank families for bearing with us as we determine the best plan forward.
I'll just jump in here and add, obviously, Michael and team, thank you again for your commitment to the district, all of our kids, our teachers and staff. You know, the ability that you have, all of you, to pivot is absolutely incredible. So thank you for all that you're doing. Debbie, I echo everything you just said, so I'm not going to continue on that path, but you know, certainly the 75% of the families who do want their children to return, it's complicated. So I don't want to open a can of worms, but Michael, during your presentation, I think we may have had gold and maroon misrepresented, because I think the original intent was to keep consistency in days of the week for each of the colors. And it looked like we were flip-flopping them. So I just, for those families who really need to try to plan, you know, for their kids not being in school during the hybrid model, I'm not sure we gave them the exact dates.
I'm looking at the graphic. Hold on just a second. So I think it's accurate, because if hybrid would continue beyond the first week, we go back to, it's Tuesday, Thursdays maroon, Wednesday, Friday is gold, every other Monday. So the reason maroon is represented on the following Monday is because in that week it would be, and I see what you're saying now, it's wrong. So it should be Tuesday, Thursday should be maroon, Wednesday, Friday is gold. So again, I apologize. We've worked on this in very short order. So we'll provide the updated calendars and all the information to our families prior to the start of the school year. But Tuesdays and Thursdays will be maroon. Wednesdays and Fridays will be gold, with every other Monday opposite color, should hybrid be necessary beyond the first week. So we will fix the graphic. I apologize.
No, yeah, and I feel bad calling it out, because I know you're working miracles behind the scenes. So I just wanted to make sure there's clarity to the families. And I also know that you're not going to be able to answer this explicitly by grade, but again, just to help those families, can you give general guidance, Michael, on how we're coming up with which families are gold and which ones are maroon? So again, as they look at those dates, they can try to identify with one.
So it's strictly an alphabetical breakdown. So we've taken the district. We're waiting to see who the final students are that select VLP. Once we remove those students and put them into the VLP program, the remaining students will be divided alphabetically into two portions, hypothetically A through K, L through Z, depending on where the shift is. That represents approximately 50% of the student attendance by last name. So you will be assigned to a maroon group or a gold group based upon alphabetical last name, with the exception of multiple students in the same household with different last names. We're working individually with those families to select, do you want all of your students grouped together to permit the family unit to come to school on the same days if we are in hybrid and they do not have the same last name?
And the first half of the alphabet we're associating with gold for the most.
First half of the alphabet
That's
will
how
be maroon, second half of the alphabet will be gold. I just don't know which letter is the divisor until we see what the final VLP enrollment is, because we have to shift it to keep it balanced as students move in between. I'm in person, I'm in the VLP, but it will be an alphabetical breakdown and it will not change once you are assigned to your group.
Great. Thank you.
So the bushes will be maroon.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of already said, and anybody who's been watching our board meetings has probably heard us say this 1,000 times. Listen, we understand the frustration that some people may feel with the fact that maybe the school year is getting delayed, or maybe you don't feel like there's been a 100% solid decision made yet. I guess and I know people have to plan. People have work obligations, people have daycare obligations, and we understand that. You know, as board members, we also have kids who are going to be in school this fall, and so we're dealing with the same things that you are. I think though and I think people appreciate this because of the conversations we've had as individual board members. You know, we've heard from a lot of people. I mean, the vast majority of New Albany Plan Local Schools families not only want to have their kids in person, but have chosen to have your kids in person this fall. We've heard from students who say they want to be in school this fall. I personally talked with some teachers, and other board members have as well, who say they want to return to school this fall. As a board, and this is why we're doing this, as a board, we strongly believe that our children need to be in school with their teachers. We believe that the data supports that. You've got the head of the CDC, you've got Dr. Fauci, who just yesterday, I think, said again that the preference is to have kids in school. And so we're going to continue to work with the Community Task Force, the Franklin County Department of Health, the Ohio Department of Health. We talk with other school districts, we talk with our teachers and staff, and it's all about getting kids back to school in person as soon as possible. At the same time, we recognize that there are people who have concerns about the virus and health concerns, and so we want to be sensitive to that. That's what we're trying to do right now, is give our community more time so that we can make the best decision as possible, so that we can do what pretty much everybody wants us to do, and that is to get back to school in person. So I think just we want to acknowledge that we get the frustration, we understand it. I think it's probably fair to say that this board has got some frustration too. I mean, we've had a lot of meetings lately, as you know. Our administration, I'm sure, feels the same way, but it's all for the right reasons. It's because we want to put students first. It's because we want to achieve the best academic and developmental outcomes for our kids. And we believe that the best way to do that is to have our kids in school, in person, in front of their teachers in the safest way possible. So thank you for your patience. We will continue to work toward that end. Does anybody have any other comments or questions for Mr. Sawyers?
Thank you.
Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, the board requested of Mr. Sawyers to put together this plan. And so it's not a typical superintendent item where we would just vote on his plan. This is something that the board has put together. So I would like to introduce a resolution that I have to say, first of all, was put together with the input of everybody on this board. And thank you all for your commentary. And we were working on this morning, even to make sure that it was what we needed and what we wanted to convey to our community. So I'd like to make a motion to introduce and then approve this resolution, if I could have, so I will introduce or make a motion. If I could have a second, and then I will read it and we can have discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Darrow and a second by Ms. Kalinowski. So this is the resolution. I will read it. Members, you do have it. I did send it to your emails if you want to follow along. And I believe that once adopted, this resolution would be available for the public to view as well. Whereas on or about July 6, 2020, the Ohio Department of Education issued a reset and restart education planning guide designed to help schools understand guidelines and considerations for reopening school buildings to students for the 2020-2021 school year during the continued presence of COVID-19, and to do so in a way that protects the health and safety of students, staff, and the community. And whereas on or about July 6, 2020, the Ohio Department of Health issued COVID-19 health and safety guidance for Ohio's K-12 schools to provide a framework for districts and school leaders to reopen school buildings to students while helping students and staff reduce the risk of exposure and prevent the spread of COVID-19 in their communities. And whereas pursuant to the above referenced guidance issued by the Ohio Department of Education and the Ohio Department of Health, and in accordance with guidance from the Centers for Disease Control, Franklin County Public Health Department, and the New Albany COVID-19 Task Force, the district developed its responsible restart plan for the 2020-2021 school year to include strategies and processes to keep students, staff, and the community safe while planning for the student experience for every single child, including, but not limited to, their wellness, socialization, and academics. And whereas, as the 2020-21 school year quickly approaches, the Board of Education believes it is important to inform the community now with as much clarity as possible of its updated plans so families are able to prepare for the start of the new school year. And whereas in reaching this decision, the Board of Education has carefully considered the orders and guidance from state and local health departments, the input of the New Albany COVID-19 Community Task Force, as well as faculty, staff, parents, and community members. The board has also consulted with the Franklin County Public Health Commissioner and given consideration to the current state of the coronavirus in our community in this effort to open school safety for students, faculty, and staff. And whereas the Board of Education believes that families should have a choice between in-person and fully remote learning to meet the needs of each individual student and/or family for the 2020-21 school year. And whereas the board believes for families electing for their children to attend school in person, that beginning the school year in person is in furtherance of achieving the best academic and developmental outcomes for each student. And whereas it is the intent of the New Albany Plain Local Board of Education to open our schools as soon as possible to in-person instruction and extracurricular activities in accordance with reasonable health and safety protocols. And whereas the Board of Education believes that the responsible restart plan developed for the 2021 school year is in the best interest of district faculty, staff, students, and families to provide a flexible plan that includes both in-person instruction and virtual learning to accommodate the unique needs of each student and to maintain the ability to continue to engage students through e-learning in the event schools are mandated to close at any time during the 2020-2021 school year. So now therefore be it resolved that the New Albany Plain Local School District Board of Education hereby adopts and authorizes the district's responsible restart plan for the 2021 school year. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby directs the superintendent to communicate with and effectuate any and all changes to personnel requirements necessary to implement the district's responsible restart plan and the revised 2020-21 school year calendar for our students, parents, families, faculty, and staff. Beginning Thursday, August 27th, the teacher work year shall commence with teachers physically present on the school campus to actively participate in professional development opportunities and to plan and prepare to meet the academic and developmental needs of students unless otherwise determined by the superintendent. Additionally, the board directs the superintendent to modify work calendars as necessary for all other job classifications for the 2020-21 school year based on implementation of the responsible restart plan. And be it further resolved that students shall attend school beginning Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 through Friday, September 11th, 2020 in assigned student groups of approximately 25 to 50% daily attendance patterns to permit students to practice the required health and safety protocols required as part of the responsible restart plan unless committed to the virtual learning program. Then beginning Monday, September 14th, 2020, in-person students shall continue in assigned student groups of at least 50% and if possible, begin full-time daily attendance for the 2020-2021 school year in accordance with revised school bell schedules developed to meet the academic, developmental, and transportation needs of students. That is the resolution. The floor is open for comment or questions.
I think it speaks for itself. I'd also like to thank all of our board members for their input. It's important, obviously, and I think it is clear that it is our intent to have our kids back in school where they belong, where they are best served, and to do so in a way that is that respects the needs of students, families, faculty, staff, all of the relevant stakeholders, and I think it's the best we can do at this point. We're determined to get kids back in school.
Any other comments or questions? I know we've had a number of individual back and forth conversations. I think it's just, again, important to reiterate that this is the plan. This is the way we're going to go. We do have that September 2nd date to revisit things based on where we are as a community and a country as it relates to COVID. Actually, community as it relates to COVID. But we want to give our families as much clarity as possible about the intent of this board and where we're trying to go and why we're trying to do what we're doing. So if there aren't any other comments or questions, I would request a roll call on approval of the resolution.
Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff,
Yes.
President McClelland.
Yes, the resolution passes. Without any other business before the board this morning, I will entertain a
Mr.
motion to adjourn.
McClelland,
Yes.
Mr. McClelland, there's actually an addendum
Oh,
item.
that's
that you
right.
have to approve the calendar.
Yes, that's right. I apologize. I'm looking backwards here. So with, we do have that addendum item, which is the approval of the school calendar. It's kind of important. So again, a reminder, this is the adjustment to the school calendar to push the start of the school year back by a week. That means teachers would report on August 27th and staff as well. And then students would have their first day on September the 8th, as well as the changes to the end of the school year with graduation and the end of the final day of students and teachers in June. And then the adjustment to the winter break to remove a few days. So any questions or comments on that? If not, could I have a motion to adopt the school calendar?
So moved. Second.
Was that Mr. Bush? I apologize.
Mr.
Mr.
Newmoff.
Mr.
moved and
Newmoff,
Mr.
okay.
Darrow seconded.
Mr. Newmoff with the motion, Mr. Darrow with the second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Newmoff,
Yes.
Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
President McClelland.
Yes. Now with no other items before the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Darrow in a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bush. Roll call, please.
Vice President Darrow,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski,
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff,
Yes.
President McClelland.
Yes, we are adjourned. Our next scheduled meeting, regular meeting, is Monday, August 24th. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.